video for the longest time. I'm really excited that it's finally happening. Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So I feel like I do not do many story time type videos. The story times I do are very like emotional stories, not like fun, rebellious, about to get arrested stories, which is just because I'm not a sketchy person. So in college, I went through this phase where I wanted to do really like rebellious, illegal, sketchy stuff. My guy friends usually initiated stuff like this and I kind of went along with it. In college, there's a lot of opportunities to do stuff like this. Go into swimming pools, hot tubs that you're not supposed to be at. Go into buildings at the middle of the night, do random things in the classrooms, climb on top of roofs. Every time I did something like this, it was within our college campus. If I ever got in trouble for it, it would be like the campus police who are really chill. It wouldn't be like the actual police. This happened about a year ago on New Year's. I was visiting one of my best guy friends. This guy I've known since I was 14. We grew up together at church. He actually went to a different church, but our churches did a ton of events together. So I saw him several times a year until I went to college, and since then we've stayed really close just because we talk on the phone in like these hour-long intense conversations. We kind of have like a long distance friendship. Sometimes we'll go like 5 months without talking at all, but then one of us will like call the other person and it's like no time has gone by at all. We're gonna call my guy friend Isaac. So I hadn't seen Isaac in 2 years just because he moved to the west part of Florida. I live on the east side of Florida. It's like 5 hours away. He's in school, I'm in school, we're both really busy. I was also there for his birthday and then celebrating New Year's Eve. For New Year's Eve, I was with him and a ton of his guy friends and they were being crazy, like setting off all these firecrackers, almost killing all of us. Then we went to this worship service at like 11:30, and so we were there until midnight, and then Isaac is like,
"Do you want to break into my old high school?"
Of course I was down. He told me later he was actually like really surprised I went along with it. So we parked his car at the church and then we walked a bit to get to the school. So we jumped the fence and it was so tall. I'm afraid of heights and I've been kind of gradually getting over that, but I was pretty scared. I got to the top though, jumped down. He is a year and a half younger than me and 3 grades below me. So I think he graduated high school like a year before. So it was kind of like he was showing me his life there, just like how I'd show him around my college campus. He was like the football quarterback, something like that. He was on the football team at his high school and it was like a big deal. Like he was apparently really popular and like getting all the girls, which was so weird to me because like I grew up with him. We saw each other in our awkward phases. So then we're walking to the football field and there are like 2 more sets of fences to climb over, and these were like even higher than the other fences. So we walk through this path and then there's like the track and the field. He's showing me all these markings and positions, explaining football to me. We're also just like talking, and he lives in more of a rural area, and so we could see like the sky and the stars. It was really beautiful. So then we hear this noise coming from above and we look up and there's like a helicopter circling above us. I was like 100% no, it's just a coincidence, that has nothing to do with us. Except for the helicopter is coming in from like over here, and instead of passing over us, it's literally doing like circles in the air around the field that we were on. At first, it was kind of just like, oh, whatever, it's just like a helicopter. But then it's like there are lights coming out of the helicopter. The last time I saw a helicopter with the searchlights was when I was at Pepperdine and some like criminal had escaped and they were like chasing the criminal with the searchlights. That was my only experience up to that point with police helicopters. And so I was just like, that cannot be for us. Like there's no way. It continues circling around. We're continuing to like just doubt that it has anything to do with us. But then we hear a car quietly drive up and we see these giant headlights. Okay, so this is like the layout of everything. So this is the track and the football field. Then we have bleachers. Over here is like the fence that we jumped over. And then there's like a driveway area right here that has a fence. So someone had like gotten in through the gate, driven their car, and it was like kind of parked, and then the bleachers were the only thing separating it. We both got scared. We walked closer to it and like peeked through the bleachers, and it was a cop car. Oh no. It was kind of like we just looked at each other. We continued to hear the helicopter noise over us, and the light is just shining. If this cop car had a way to get in through the gate, then he probably has a key to the other gates as well. So we start running across the field to the opposite bleachers. It's like 3 a.m. at this point. It's so dark. When we were running over there, we had our iPhone flashlights on. We immediately turned our iPhone flashlights off because we didn't want anyone to be able to find us. It was another like mutual communication without saying anything. So we're like behind the bleachers, and there's kind of like this concrete type area, and then there's the concrete poles that are holding up the bleachers. There's a fence right behind there, and there is a ditch. And then afterwards, this really like dense like tree type area. So we're like tiptoeing around, like whispering so quietly. I'm like grabbing onto his arm, but to be honest, he was a lot more scared than I was. I don't know why. I was like so calm about the situation. It might have been because I feel like I really trust him. He's the guy, like he'll protect me. But also I feel like I've been in enough situations like this. But the reason he was so scared is because he's black. And this was right around the time when the Black Lives Matter movement was like full momentum, always in the news. We heard this like scuttling type noise, and Isaac got so scared. He's like, what is that? Like, what noise? What was that? And so he's like tiptoeing around, like looking behind the concrete things, like trying to figure out what it was. I was just like nonchalant. I was just staying hidden behind like my pillar and like peeking around, like making sure he was still there. It is like pitch black. There's a little bit of like moonlight, so we could kind of like vaguely see each other. So eventually the headlights went away. They just turned off. The helicopter noise did not stop. It was still there. I think we waited like 10 more minutes, and then we walked out from the bleachers and went back to the field. I was a little bit scared when we went back out into the open, and I remember holding on to him and being like, okay, if there's a cop, do not run, do not run. I was like prepared to like stand in front of him and be like, okay, like I am white, like do not shoot my friend. It's so crazy because I've heard a lot of stories from him about like his perspective as a black guy with police officers. It's like really sketchy. Like he gets like kind of like stop and frisk type stuff when he's like at his house. One time he was like coming home from work at night, and a police officer like knocked on his car window, almost like trying to get a reaction out of him. I can make a whole video like sharing stories about this. One example though, and not to like destroy the mood of this video, but right around where I live, his cousin was shot by an off-duty white cop. Literally, his cousin was killed. His cousin, who is also black, was coming back from a worship practice at his church. His car broke down. A white police officer, off-duty, does not have a cop car, not wearing uniform, also pulls over and pulls out a gun and shoots him. It makes me so angry. Like, it is just like so evil. Like, I don't understand why stuff like this like continues to happen. This was like a big deal a year ago, like to my friend's family, but also to like where I live. And the guy got convicted who murdered my friend's cousin. Anyways, so that was all on my mind when we see the headlights. It makes me so angry too that like when I see a cop, they literally start like talking to me, flirting with me. I got pulled over a month or so ago, and I literally just like smiled at the cop, and he was like totally fine, didn't give me any sort of violation. But then like my friend, because he's a guy, because he has a different skin color, he literally has to be like so careful to not get killed. He was still really scared, and I understand why. I probably should have been more scared than I was. My thing too is it was like a really small town, so I feel like even though he was like a minority race and like marginalized, I still couldn't see something like that happening like where we were. So once we feel like enough time has gone by, we walk back into the field. We're both like barely talking to each other, talking so quietly. The helicopter was still there. It kept circling around for another like 5 minutes. Once it was gone, we went and sat on the bleachers, and we had a heart-to-heart for like 2 hours, uninterrupted by police helicopters and police officers and terrifying headlights. We ended up talking about like depression and like suicidal thoughts, and like I was explaining to him like what depression was like for me. He had a friend, like a best friend, who committed suicide the year before because of depression. It's so crazy to me, like my 2 other guy best friends and my ex, who was my best friend, each of them had a guy, like close friend, who killed himself. This stuff is just like so scary to me because I have depression, and I've sort of dealt with like that type of thinking. Obviously not to the extent where I'm planning anything, but like with the police shooting stuff, it's just like so close to me, like so real. Like all these issues like directly affect people who I really care about. This is just like a great example of my channel. I try to make like a fun, happy video and it ends up becoming like so serious dark. This shirt, by the way, is about modern day slavery. It's called the End It movement. I got this shirt like 4 years ago at the Passion Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, which is just like a giant like Christian college student retreat type thing. Modern day slavery is a thing. There's like tens of thousands of slaves, and if you donate money to International Justice Mission, then you'll be able to free some of the slaves. I made a whole video for Project for Awesome like 3 or 4 years ago talking about IJM. So I'm gonna link it below. I love you guys so much. I'm gonna link below a ton of playlists to my other videos, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!